Welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good night, depending on when and where you're joining us from today. This is the Institute, and these are the leading edge podcasts as we have discussions talking to you about your awesomeness, your success, your prowess in making your shop the best that you can possibly be. Super excited to be here today. My name is Jimmy Lea. I am with the Institute. We are talking to you about your awesomeness, your success, your challenges, your past, your future, your present. Where are you today? As we talk about these things today, the guest is Mr. Bob Conant. Bob, glad to have you with us. We're going to talk about you. So it should be easy for us to talk about. Bob, you can come up on camera now.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good, 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 good. How are the Bills?
Bills are good. 1-0, undefeated
They're doing great as of today.
as of today. Yes.
As of today. And
Tomorrow
how
could
do
be
you
a
think they're
different
going to
story.
do going into this weekend with Miami?
Tomorrow's gonna be a tough game with Miami, so we'll see. I'm okay either way, but if they win, I get to talk a little more trash. So hopefully they'll win.
Nice. Yeah, it's amazing how much of a religion football can be.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We have people every Sunday or every game that come over and watch it with us, so it's a blast.
Oh, it sure is, sure is. And Bob, I'd love to jump into your story to talk about who you are and about your history and about your past, where you came from, very specifically with Bob's shop, Bob Kaiser's shop. You were a technician in the shop for quite a few years.
Yeah, I worked for Bob on and off for years, and I came back in 2000 as a tech, and then started to do a little bit more of office work. And mainly it was
Okay.
because I saw how the industry beats up a technician's body. So for
Wow.
me, I said, hey, let's learn a little bit more of the office side, and maybe I can extend my career in the industry.
Well, let's back up a second. That's 24 years ago. You say you came back to Bob Kaiser's. Does
Yeah.
that mean you worked in the 1900s at Bob's place?
Yeah, it felt like it, no. So I worked through high school and actually started off cutting his grass when
Oh,
he
nice.
at his house,
Okay.
and then worked into cleaning up and I've done pretty much every position here between tow truck driver, cleanup kit,
Wow.
the whole nine. So and then I kind of transitioned through high school, worked here, and then left. Went to a couple shops in between coming back,
Okay.
and then came back for good back in right around 2000. So.
Okay. So you've been a technician for a lot of years. You come back in 2000s, 24 years ago. You start getting into more of the office work. Is this like service advisor, general manager, or service advisor
Yeah,
solely? Or
no, I started off as a tech and service advisor. I did part-time tech, part-time service advisor, and then eventually went to full-time service advisor. And probably the last 10 years was a labeled a general manager.
okay.
So yeah.
And and at what point, when you came back in 2000, and we're just going to start at that, at what point did you look at this business and say, "Hey, you know what? I think I really like this, and I think I want to buy this shop."
I think that's crazy talk for anybody, but um, I would say that it's probably 10 years into that. It was he was talking about retiring and or at least thinking about it. And so I looked at that point to say, hey, you know what, this would be a great opportunity. I was in my 40s, a little bit more energy than in my 50s, and said, hey, this would be a great opportunity. So we started talking at that point, and you kind of realize that he really wasn't ready to let go and retire.
Oh, dang.
So from there, I had actually had a friend of mine who worked for Bob for 20 something years, left and went to the dealer. I
Okay.
brought him back in to be a partner with me. We were planning on purchasing it together.
Okay.
Uh, so that went great for years. We were all kind of pushing for the same thing. And then you kind of saw that Bob was just really not ready to let it go. So um, So then that
Oh,
kind of started to change with my partner, and then he had medical issues that he had to finally retire from the industry, which again is why I tried to get into the office because it beats up your body.
yeah.
So he left, and then there was several years. It was several years after that that the talk finally came real. But it went a long ways before, you kept having that carrot dangle in front of you, and hey, yeah, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. But for an owner, it was really hard for him to let go. I mean, this was his life. He literally lived in front of the shop. Um, so his commute was really quick, and he worked 25 hours a day. So it didn't really matter, so this was his life. It wasn't just a business, it was his life. So
S- Literally, he lived like next door to the shop.
So yeah, this is actually we're in actually an old bus garage that's set back off the road. So there's two houses in the front, and one of the houses he owned both of them, but the one house he lived in
Oh my.
for 33 years somewhere around there.
Okay.
So yeah, it was tough for him to finally let go, and then when he finally was ready to say, hey, I'm really looking to retire. I wasn't in a mindset, and to go back, we had finally joined a coaching group years ago,
Okay.
and he went to a couple meetings and then realized it's not for him, right? He was a true technician, but he was not a good people person. So
Okay.
he didn't want to join the groups. He didn't want to be involved in our groups, but knew that the business needed it. So I was put in the position to represent in the groups, and we were in a group for probably about 6 years. And finally, I was kind of like, all right, every time I go to a meeting, we'd learn a lot, come back with a whole bunch of notes, and I'd come back all gung ho, ready to change stuff and get stuff on track.
Yeah.
And he wasn't willing to change it. No, we can't do this. We can't do that. Customers will never let us do this. So there was a lot of that going on, and we can't do that in our area. So finally, after coming back and getting beaten up at these meetings a lot without being able to change anything, I said, you know what? If nothing changes by the end of the year, I'm going to leave the group because I'm not benefiting anyone there.
Whoa.
And so which really did stink. I mean, I love the group. I love the guys that were in there. It was a lot of fun, a lot of great information.
Yeah.
And so finally, I said, all right, nope. At the end of the year, I was out, and that was it. So we went a couple of years after that. It was probably about 4 years after that, before he really seriously started talking about selling and retiring.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, so then after that, he was finally said he was ready to sell. I said, yeah, I don't think so. So I went through a couple of years of, screw you. I can't. I'm not buying. I'm not chasing this carrot again.
Yeah.
So and then finally, it looked like he was really serious. So I sat down with my wife and said, all right, what should we do? So, I said, I can go somewhere else. Um, there's always McDonald's, so you can always get a job somewhere.
Right? Taco time,
That's right.
McDonald's.
So,
Yeah.
so I said, all right, now you know what? I loved what I do. Um, I love the customer base. I
Yeah.
love the staff here.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, let's bite the bullet, and if he's serious, let's do it. So he was serious, and everything went through, and then I purchased the business, and well, actually I started leasing it in May or February of 21, and then finally closed on the purchase of it around August of 21.
Oh wow. That's I'm gonna say that's fairly quick.
It felt like it took forever. Yeah.
It did
So
take forever. So, but from the final, okay, February to August, that's the short time period, but it took you 21 years to get to that point,
yeah,
which
yeah.
here's the good news. You don't hold the record,
I'm sure. I'm sure.
but that's also the unfortunate news that you don't hold the record.
Yeah.
What advice would you get? Because I think there's a lot of technicians, service advisors, managers that are in that same position that you were in, where that carrot kept being dangled, but you just didn't. And it wasn't that you weren't willing; it's that you weren't willing at the same time. How, how do you give somebody um, hope that it's going to happen eventually?
So that's a great question because, honestly, I looked at it as I should have just bailed out years ago and opened my own shop. Um, and I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
But it's you got to look deep because if I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are well, there's a lot of owners out there that are looking to say, hey, you know what, I need to get out, right? And the problem with it is nobody really puts a lot of the majority of people don't put things in place to make it happen. And for that, you string a lot of people on. Like I say, for me, I would have much rather do it in my 40, around 40 than 50.
Yeah.
Um, but honestly, I don't. You really have to look deep at it because, again, I didn't think this was ever going to happen, and in reality, to wait that long is kind of crazy if this is what you want to do. So, um, yeah, I would say they would really have to reevaluate it because I know a handful of guys now that are in the same boat locally that are being held on that hey, the owner's going to sell, the owner's going to sell, the owner's going to sell. And honestly, it's a lot harder for knowing now. I see it's a lot harder for owners to say, hey, if an owner is involved on a daily basis,
Yeah.
it's going to be hard for them to make that decision to say, you know what, I think it's time for me to retire.
Interesting. So if it is an absentee owner, it's a little bit easier. So if you were to go to these, unless there's two or three guys that are in your town, what advice are you going to give them? Because each situation is unique, and I understand that. So this is a very broad brush. What advice would you give them today?
Honestly, I'd say don't believe the hype. I mean, actions speak louder than words. So if it's not happening and that's what you want to do, then you've got to make the decision to make the move. Or you make the decision to hang in and wait till it does happen, if it does happen.
Yeah. Yeah, if you really like that location, if you really like that customer base and you really want to stay there, then you can stay there. I think, and help me out here on this, Bob. Would it, and I don't know if you did this or maybe collectively the both of you did this, where you finally drew a line in the sand, well, let's call it that, a line in the sand and said, okay, this has to happen by the end of the year.
Yes, and basically it was both of us. I mean, for me, it was okay. Is this really going to happen? And I dragged my feet on it a little bit because I was like, I don't really think he's really serious. So I had to wait. I had to see it in his eyes that he was serious. Okay, I want to go.
Okay.
And the funny part with that is, even after it happened, he didn't really want to go. So,
Was he still coming in every day?
oh, he was still, yeah, he was still coming in every day, and the habit was is hard to break. So
Yeah, I mean that was his life. You're back next door. You're the backyard. The shop is part of his
yeah,
daily routine.
it was his life. So finally, when he was serious, I said, okay, let's move forward. And honestly, for me, for this business, and I look at it as it was a good choice for me because he built a really good business. I mean, he
Yeah,
invested his blood, sweat, and tears in it. He worked 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. And he had a really good reputation and he did things right. So, and I worked for a couple of shops in between. And, you find guys trying to cheat the system and, to try to get ahead or make an extra buck and it's not worth it. Bob was always a very honest guy. So had the opportunity to learn from a very honest person, a very smart technician. Um, so for me, it was a great situation for the learning aspect of what he put into this business
yeah,
and where it was when I was looking to purchase it. It was a solid company and not even number wise, but trust wise, loyalty wise with customers. Our
yeah.
retention rate's really high. So we had a very good customer base that was loyal. I mean, when he first moved out here, he was in the city. He moved out here in 80 and 85, beginning of 86. For his first year, he had 75% of his customers that traveled 20 to 25 minutes to come out to Hilton for his repairs.
From Rochester?
Yep. So I mean, that's the type of loyalty that he built with his clients. So uh,
Wow.
that made him survive the first year, and then from there, the community learned of him, and it grew from there. So
And they embraced him finally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Finally. Yeah.
Yeah. No, with the small towns, you're living in a small
Yeah.
town. Hilton's a small town. There, you got to break through that good old boy mentality and become part of the community. And that's sometimes very difficult in a small town.
Yeah. No, it wasn't, and we built a great reputation, and like I said, I love the area, I love the customers. So
Yeah.
for me, it made sense
Yeah.
to make the jump and purchase the business.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's one of the things I love about the automotive industry too, is that the honesty is there, the integrity is there. And I'm using a very broad brush because yes, there are some that aren't, but for the majority, I think the industry is hardworking, super hardworking. They'll put in the time, effort, and energy to get the results. And you have done that. So I'm seeing a 21-year time period. 6 of those years you were in a group mastermind idea, then you dropped out, then you came back. 3 years ago, you finally took that big plunge and bought the business. Um, what what did that look like? I mean, gosh dang, that had to be one of the scariest moments.
Well, it was, and for many owners that are or were technicians,
Yeah,
uh, it's a scary thing. And for me, I was
yeah,
a tech service advisor, and then labeled as a general manager. And I say that because I really didn't have I had some of the authority, but not full of the authority. So it was a scary move because I didn't know the back end, right? I knew how to run the shop, deal with the
yeah,
employees, handle the customers, things like that. But I didn't know all the fun that goes on the backside between bills and taxes and all that stuff. So, yeah, it was very scary, which is why when I purchased the business, I already knew that I was going to join back up into a group and to have that structure, the discipline and the accountability with it. So and the resources. I mean, without the group and in any group, you have a lot of board members that you can bounce stuff off, and you have a lot of resources to be able to figure out problems because we all go through the same thing. The industry's, an auto repair shop is an auto repair shop. We all have similar to the same problems. Uh,
yes,
so to have that counseling, if you will, um, it makes a big difference, which is why I knew that I needed to join a group. For me, it was also because I really wasn't sure that I could do it. It's a big load to take on, and it's a lot of responsibilities to have employees that have families that you're responsible for now. Because my job is to keep them with a job and keep them stable and whatnot. So yeah,
yeah.
it was a big leap. It was definitely a little scary.
It's a humbling experience to finally realize, oh my gosh, now I have 9 mortgages. Now I have nine
Right.
families to feed and 9 families to clothe and 9 families or whatever that number is for you, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
a humbling
Yeah.
experience. So what did it look like that first year for you? And I understand it's a completely different skill set going from a technician, service advisor, manager, owner. Owner is a different skill set. You went into that group environment from where Bob had built the business. Now you take over, you're in the group. What does that first year look like?
Yeah, it was interesting. So for me, I was fortunate enough. So Bob's wife took care of the back end, the bills and whatnot.
Okay.
So I was fortunate enough to have her through my first year to help train me, right? So, and she was stuck in her ways, and she was using QuickBooks Desktop. So I said, I'm going to use QuickBooks Online. So
Yeah.
February 17th, when I started leasing the business, I changed to QuickBooks Online. So she had to learn with me to help me learn. So I had some guidance with that the first year on the back end with handling the books and everything else. The the employee portion, I mean, we have, everyone has different management styles and whatnot. I like to
Sure.
have fun. I'm a sarcastic person, um, as some of the group members that are on here watching know. Uh,
That's your
so
second language
yes, it
and
is.
you're fluent.
But I like to have fun, and for me, it was great because my employees were bought in for me purchasing the business. They wanted to work hard for me. They knew that I put everything I had into purchasing the business, so I didn't have a lot of resources on the back end to where if things went sideways. So I had it was awesome to see that my staff worked their butts off to make sure that we were hitting our numbers, hitting our goals, and everything staying on track the way it should. So, without them, that first, I mean, it could have been really bad, but no, I had a great staff to start with,
Yeah.
and they were all on board with me taking over. So
Yeah.
that worked out. That worked out the best.
It could have been a mutiny, and thank heavens it wasn't. So here's a comment that comes in from Craig Zale down in Texas. We can't do it that way here. Our clients won't let us do that. Those are probably some of those things that keep the automotive industry 20 years
Sure.
behind. It's not as progressive. So my question for you is, and this is some old school mindset. What are some of the things that you did in implementing that when you bought the business, you had the staff, you had their buy-in. What are some of those things that you did to really grow sales, grow profits, to grow the business that first year?
Well, the first year, really, honestly, not a lot. I was in my head, I was in survival mode, right? I was in don't fail
Oh,
mode,
yes, yeah.
which is where my staff really picked up and our sales. I think 21, our sales were 15% up from the previous year. And then the second year, we were up 29% in sales. So, and honestly, the biggest thing for that was just getting out of my way, um, letting my staff, giving them the expectations, the goals, and letting them do what they're paid to do.
How
Um,
hard is that to do that, to step back and go, okay, I need you to do that. It's going to take you a couple hours. I could do it in 35 minutes, but I need you to do that.
all right, Jimmy. So I mean, you don't really know me, so I'm not a micromanager, right? So I don't like to be up people's business when they're doing it. But
Okay.
if you ask my wife, I'm not a good teacher with that stuff. I'll just do it because it's easier, right? So it was
Mm,
extremely hard. You ask anyone in the group that's being told to you just need to let go. Yeah, it's scary. There's I guess the good part about it is there's days now that I come in and I'm like, all right, what am I doing here? What do I do? Because you don't have that normal. I'm working on it. The hardest thing to do is to sit back and look at numbers or look at anything else and go, all right, how are we doing? How's the staff doing? And that was more the second year of giving my staff more responsibility and kind of letting them, do what they're supposed to do. And, here's our goal. This is where we want to be. Let's push it there. So I think that was really my biggest increase. It was definitely our biggest increase ever here in the 41 years we've been open. So, and yeah, it was hard. It's not the easiest thing. Anyone that says it's easy, and I envy you because it's really not. It's no fun at times because you feel a little bit lost. You kind of lose your purpose, but you have to realize that your purpose is on a more overlooking area to say, hey, I need to keep all this stable and whatnot. It's not that, hey, I've got to write up a customer, sell this job, fix a car, and anything else. So it's harder looking from 30,000 feet up than it is down on ground level.
yeah, yeah. And Tommy gives you a heck yeah, he's sarcastic. And yet he's a great shop owner and his staff respects him.
Yep, they were just here in September, so they got to tear me apart, which was great. And luckily there wasn't a lot of bleeding, so but
That's good.
it's good information. But yes, no, they met my staff and I've got a good staff and that's the reason why I'm able to sit here with you today.
Nice. So what did you do in those first couple of years? You grew by 15%, you grew by 29%. What were some of those steps you took to improve that gross profit and that net profit?
Honestly, it's the group process.
Yeah.
Um, it was a couple things for me, right? So it was the no, I'm not going to fail. Yes, I can do this. After my first year of being a little nervous and going, all right, really, can I do this? It was like, you know what? For anyone who thinks I can't, I'm going to do it. And then it was the group process. Watch your numbers. These are what we do. Give it to your employees. These are the levels we got to hit. This is where we need to be. This is the customer service that we need to provide, and it was just a lot of monitoring that and giving them the tools to be able to do their job.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you think of the time wise, you were buying the shop in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, at the end of COVID was based. Well, yeah, I mean, we were still there. So yeah, it was scary. And the funny part is in 2020 when COVID came out in March, we had probably our best first 2 months, and we're starting off great in March. Then I think it shut down on the 17th or something like that,
Hmm.
and we really didn't miss a beat too much through. We were fortunate that we were off a little bit in 20, and yeah, so that's when I was looking to purchase. So yeah, that was even a little scary, I guess, thinking back on it now. You know, yeah, because it was all unknown. Um,
Yes.
but in reality, for me, I looked at it as, well, you know what? We didn't get killed through COVID. We stayed there. And we were one of these businesses that, was essential and so I'm like, we're not going anywhere. So I said, yeah, let's jump on the train and do it.
Nice. Nice. So what have you done within your shop, within your culture, within your people that keeps that high level customer satisfaction for your clients that keep coming back to you year after year after year?
It's pizza parties, right? That's what I see online.
Pizza
That's what
parties? Oh, is that all it takes?
that's all it takes. That's all it takes. Um, Honestly, I think it's just me being me. I like to have fun. I want my staff to have fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go to work going, man, I got to work with Jimmy again, right? He's going to be in his mood on Monday. The Seahawks lost, and so I like everyone to have a good time. So for me, it's getting my staff to enjoy it. And I'll give you an example. I've got a guy that we took from we were able to grab from another shop because his wife reached out to me because he wasn't happy there. He was
Oh,
coming
wow.
home, he was coming home every day complaining about work. He had a good job. He'd been there over 15 years, almost 16 years. So she reached out to me. We interviewed him, brought him here. She says, he's been here 2.5 years, almost 3 years, yeah, about 2.5 years. And we do dinners together as a staff. We go out golfing together, that kind of stuff. And she says, he couldn't be happier. I mean, the home life has improved because his work life has improved. So yeah, for me, it's no, I take what we do serious, and
Yeah.
customer service needs to be at the highest it can be. But you have to have fun, and to me that's the biggest thing for me. I appreciate my staff. They know that I care about them, and we've done food. I've cooked garbage plates and all kinds of burgers and breakfast and if you've never had a breakfast baconator, they're pretty good. So
No,
and
no, no. You got me a garbage plate. What?
oh, that's right. I forgot. It's more of a Rochester thing. So garbage plate. It's either burger, cheeseburgers, or hot dogs on mac salad and home fries, or mac salad and beans, or any kind of combination. Yeah, I forgot. It's more of a Rochester thing.
You call
Yeah,
that a garbage plate?
it's called a garbage plate. You got to Google it. Check it out. It's really good. You should try one this Sunday for the game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, anybody that's watching this is garbage plate. Is that just new to me own thing? Does anybody else know this? And
I don't think
is
so.
this outside of New York? Or is it just a Rochester thing?
I think it actually originated in Rochester, I believe. But yes, there was a place called Nick Tahoe's that was here that really was big on garbage plates, and now everyone copies it. And I've seen people that have moved further down south and started selling garbage plates because yeah, you're right. It just came out because that's me, that's our life. But yeah, garbage plates are more of a Rochester, New York type thing than I think anywhere else.
Okay, well, it has not made it to Long Island. Andrew pipes in. He says, "Nope, it's not down here in the island yet."
You don't know
Craig
what you're
sails.
missing.
Yeah, we all need to make a trip now, Andrew.
Yes, you
We got to
do.
go get us a garbage plate. Craig says he's never heard of it. All he knows is dirty water hot dogs.
We don't put our, well, I don't put my hot dogs in water, so
Yeah, Craig, no, we got to talk, buddy. That's That's not a good idea, especially if you're drinking it afterwards. Oh my
You know.
gosh. All right. So what, I mean, Bob, I just have this imagination that everybody's loving working at your shop. They love coming into work every day. You've got technicians now that were miserable for 16 years, and in the last 2.5 have just really brightened up and really are enjoying coming to work with you at your shop. What do you think are some of those skills, beliefs, cultures, thought process that are essential for a business owner today to be successful?
Yeah, that's honestly, I joke around that if I didn't have a sense of humor, I'd probably hurt people. Um, and honestly, I mean, you have to have a sense of humor. You have to let people grow.
Yeah,
You have to let people make mistakes, right?
yeah,
I worked for, I mean, the previous owner was he was very good at what he did, and you needed to be 110% correct 150% of the time, which is humanly impossible. So you have to let people make mistakes and learn from their mistakes, and not kill them if they do. If they're repeated mistakes, then there's time for a conversation. But for me, yeah, I think it's if as for an owner, I don't know. Again, you have to have a sense of humor. There's a lot of stuff that would, that on your daily basis, that would make you very angry. And don't get me wrong, I have mine almost, every day too. But you have to be able to let some of it go off shoulders. And it's kind of like when my kids played hockey. It's the 24-hour rule, right? So you got to give it some time. And I had one of those. I had a young kid that literally drove a full-size pickup truck off the front of my drive-on lift and took out my alignment machine. And I
oh
had to
no.
I had to walk away. And it wasn't 24 hours. It was a couple hours before I came back and tried to find out what went on and whatnot. So yeah, the downfall is, I think, is owners of any business, especially automotive, there is crap that goes on every day
Yeah.
that you have to deal with. So for me, I've always looked at it as that it's going to happen. And that's what I try to tell my advisors, right? Something's going to happen today. What time? And I would always play a game. All right, what time is going to happen? What's going to fall apart? Wrong parts, something broke, whatever it is, let's pick an hour and see. Because the way I've always looked at it is, I mean, I can get upset at a lot of things, but in reality, it's going to happen. And it's my job to be able to try to set the ship straight when things go crazy. So it doesn't help if I lose my head. So, I take it with a grain of salt. And there's probably times I should get more upset at things, but, in reality, it's to me, it's a part of the business that we're going to have problems. And my job is just to figure them out and move past it and make sure that the customer's taken care of and whatnot. So,
I love that idea. I love that aspect of your business where something's going to go wrong. So now you're taking bets on it. And my money's on 2:35 p.m., just so you're aware.
all right, let them
2
know.
2:35. So you know it's going to happen. You know that's going to, and when it does, hey guys, it's okay.
Yeah,
Who was the closest? Okay, Johnny, you won today.
yeah, right. Well, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Perfection is not a thing. You're not going to be perfect, but we
No,
are going to build this plane as we're falling out of the sky, and it's going to be getting us there. We're going to
yeah,
we're going to make it. It's going to be okay.
right. No, because it stresses everybody out. You get an advisor, Mrs. Jones needs her car by 4 o'clock, and you're finding out at 3:30 that the pads and rotors are wrong, and you're like, all right, well now it's got to panic. No, you don't have to panic. Let's just figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, what's our options to try to make it happen if you can. If not, you put her in a loaner vehicle, or a lot of people, if you ask them really when they say I need it back by 4 o'clock, you find out that, well, no, they really didn't. It just that was your only time for a ride, right? So then you're like, okay, well, we'll pick them up. So yeah, it's about solving the problem, not because you tweak out on it, then you're amping everybody else up, and it just makes for a bad situation, right? So
Oh, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Well, if there's any questions from our audience that is listening, go ahead and type them into the Q&A. Bob, I'd love to look forward down the road 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years? What does the future look like for Bob Conant?
Yeah, well, ideally for me, I would love to say that, hey, once this shop's all up on its own and running and moving, my goal would be 5 shops in 5 years, retire in 10, right? So, however that looks, that's a penciled in, projection. So, one step at a time. I'm close with the one. If I can keep this one on track without, having to hold hands at all, um, then that would be the next step to me.
Yes, yes. When you find that you've gone from, and we talked about this for a brief moment, when you find that you've gone from being the fireman to being the head cheerleader to being the observer from the outside, now you know that you're ready for the expansion. You're ready for the 5 for 5.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And that's yeah, and that's the goal. But it's a long process. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be, but it's a long process, and it's a lot of letting go, which is what we're told. You need to let go,
Yeah.
let your staff do it, and
Yep.
and whatnot. But it is also one of the hardest things to do. So, and honestly, I miss it. You go from working on cars was fun
Yeah.
until it wasn't, right. But they frustrate you, but it was easy. The cars don't talk back.
Right.
My favorite part were customers. You get to know them, you get to talk to them, you get to help them. So that was my fun part. The owner portion of it really isn't that much fun. So I mean, it is, but yeah, it's not as fun. I miss doing a lot of the other stuff.
You miss
But
wrenching.
I do. Well, I miss mentioning it. I miss actually dealing with the customers, shuttling customers. You get to know them, you get to talk to them, you build relationships, which is really all it's about. And so for me, I miss that part.
Yeah.
But so the hardest part when you transition from a technician or service writer or anywhere in between there to a owner, it comes with a whole other level of responsibilities that you really don't look at, and or maybe you didn't know, what your purpose and what your job is at that. It's a lot harder at the higher level, um, you know, which it should be. So there's a lot more responsibility into it than a lot of people think. It's not just, hey, I can, put gas in my car on the company card or whatever it is. It comes with responsibilities and it's a lot of good. I mean, actually seeing your staff grow and be able to handle situations that they wouldn't in the past. Um, you know, that they're training, they're listening, they're learning. Yeah, that it's like watching your little kid grow up, right? It's a little bit of an accomplishment to go, okay, hey, they did it. Until they do
Yeah.
something stupid, and then you're like, really? Didn't we just talk about this?
Hey, that happens to everybody. We all
Yeah.
have dummy moments.
Oh, yeah.
And Tommy says thank you, by the way. Wow, 5 shops in 5 years. He's going to hold you to that now.
I know he will.
He'll hold you to that commitment, which is good. It's just good that this. So, are there shops in the crosshairs? Is there something that you are looking at that might possibly expand the kingdom?
There are, and I think the good and the bad part is you're seeing. I mean, I don't have a lot of shops in my area. If you really look at where we're at, it's there's shops within 3 miles and 5 miles and whatnot, but there are a lot of there are a lot of older owners,
Yeah,
um, probably without plans. And I know one of them that's looking to retire, and his plan was his technician, and his technician said, "Nope, you retire, I'm out too." So there's a handful of shops in the area with owners that don't have a contingency plan to move forward and move out.
yeah,
So I think there's a lot of availability, which is a good and a bad thing. I mean, you're still losing a lot of knowledge because the older guys are leaving the business, and puts a hurt because the younger guys don't really want to invest in themselves as much as what we had to.
yeah,
So you're not seeing that. Nowadays you have to train and learn on company time, where you go back years ago and not to date myself, but you would do that on your own time to better yourself to learn and whatnot. So, but there are a lot of shops in here that you can see that in talking to tool guys and parts delivery guys, there's a lot of people out there that are looking to get out because it's not getting any easier. I
Yeah.
mean, this industry it's not a glamour industry. You don't get a lot of pats on the back. Um, I mean, you do, but not really. If you need a pat on the back, this is a tough industry to be in because people really don't appreciate you as much as the effort that you put in.
Yeah.
So,
They don't understand what it takes to repair the vehicle, the computer science behind it all, the coding that's in there, the amount of diag it takes to find what's wrong.
yeah, yeah, and to keep staff happy and motivated and give the customer service because we've all been to those restaurants or convenience stores or anything else where you can
Hmm.
tell that person really loves their job and they don't. But so that's the hardest part. That's it's to get your staff to and the example I have is um, the old owner, and I've heard a lot of other business owners talk about it, where there's something on the floor, and the owner's like, "Hey, I've walked past that for 3 days. Everyone else has walked past it. Nobody's picked it up." And I said, have you ever asked yourself what do you have to do to make them want to pick it up, right? Because that's the key. If you can make, because no one's going to have the same passion and drive as the owner does. But how do you make somebody buy in and want to do part of what the is in the owner's head and what they do, right? So how do you make them want to do it? How do you make them want to pick that up? How do you make them want to make sure they go the extra mile for the customer? Those are the kind of things that I think we need to ask ourselves more because you can tell somebody 20 times to do something, and every time it needs to get done, you can say, "Hey, Jimmy, can you go over here and take care of that for me?" Right. But how do you make somebody want to go, "Oh, you know what? It's Tuesday. I gotta go take care of that." So yeah, I think that's the magic question, and I don't have the magic answer, but I can tell you that it definitely starts with caring for your staff, treating correctly, um, and having a sense of humor. Have a fun day.
Oh yeah, having fun is definitely goes a long way. And I think where you are is building that company, that culture, that process, that procedure, that mindset where they do want to pick it up. One of my favorite pictures is being able to see Walt Disney at Disneyland picking up trash in the street.
Yeah, I
It
think
was on Main Street.
was it Steve Jobs that said everyone sweeps the floor, or something like that. So, and in reality, I mean, for me, I'm a lead by example. I'm not going to have you do anything that I won't do. My wife's always like, "Why are you still getting to work at 6:45?" I said, "Well, because that's what I like to do, and that's I like to be here early. I like to be here before everyone, and I don't know. It's because in part that I would miss it. I mean, yes, there's times I need to work from home, but otherwise, yeah, I like the chaos that goes along on a daily basis. So
Well, so let's see. You went from the fireman to the cheerleader, the head cheerleader, and now you're the chaos coordinator.
yeah, that's the title. I'll get a shirt made with it because it's a yeah. Honestly, it really is. It's controlled chaos though, right? It's got
Yeah,
to be somewhat controlled. Yeah, no, I think if you look at my LinkedIn, I probably should change it because I haven't changed it in like 10 years or more. But I think it
right.
was firefighter, babysitter, um, policeman, referee,
Oh
counselor.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's that's the fun part. But
Oh,
you got to take some of it with a grain of salt, and again, you got to laugh with it, and because again, if you don't laugh, you'll get mad, and somebody might get hurt.
yeah. And that's the last thing we need to do is
That's right. That's right.
be behind bars because somebody got hurt.
Yep.
So laugh with it. I love that. What last and final question, we can land this plane here. What advice would you give to shop owners that are starting their shops today? You bought your shop 3 years ago, so this is somewhat new, but also relevant and very close and near and dear to you. What advice would you give guys or gals that are starting a shop today?
Jokingly, I would say don't do it, but honestly, get support. Join a group.
Yeah.
Join, because you don't know what you don't know, and I tell you, you see a lot of owners that are you're only working through here. I'm only seeing this, right? Um, so you don't know. And sometimes it's misery loves company, right? So you see all the shops that go through the ups and downs and hey, I'm having an employee problem, I'm having an employee problem, you kind of okay, well, we're all dealing with the same thing, right? So but yeah, you don't know what you don't know. So a group to keep you accountable, um, to have your board of directors, to have, people to lean on. That honestly, and that's why I looked at it when I was taking over that I said, all right, well, I have to join a group because I know that I need that. I need the support. I need the knowledge too, because like I said, initially I wasn't very confident that I had the skills to do it. And, without that support and accountability, I wouldn't. It's so easy to get off track
Yeah.
and go wrong directions. And you still do when you're in a group, but you have more people to help rein you back in. I mean, for me, I love the group I'm in, and not just because some of them are on the call here, but it's just a great support system. And again, with it makes you look at things and think of things in a different way. Where if you're not doing that, you don't know. And I could tell you, I met a guy. I was out. He recently purchased a shop, and some of the stuff we were talking about, he was doing, and I'm like, what are you crazy? I mean, no, I mean, so anyways, I gave him a business card and said, hey, look, if you need any help, give me a call. I'm not that I know it all, but I can help you, with whatever I can help you with, and I think that's where, if you're not in a networking group locally with shops, or, in a larger group with the Institute or any of the other ones, you're missing out because again, you've got blinders on and you're only seeing what you see and what you think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So there's going to be a mad rush. Everybody wants to join Bob's group. That's group number 2. Let me tell you that there's a lot of groups with the Institute. So those of you who are interested that are hearing this, yes, absolutely. You are welcome. We invite you to come and join us in the group environment. Bob will be there. A lot of other shop owners will be there. So if you need a healthy dose of accountability and direction, or maybe you're like a Tracy Holt that you just really need to fine tune a couple things here and there. Tracy Holt went from a 7% net profit up to, I think he's at a 28% net profit now.
Nice.
That's pretty dang awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty dang awesome. So the groups are awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that everybody's chatting in saying how awesome the groups are. So thank you to that, Bob.
Yeah.
With that, we're going to land this plane. Thank
Well,
you. Thank you for joining me this morning. I really appreciate you being here. We've got
okay.
coming up here in the very near future the 5-day service advisor intensive, October 8th through the 12th. Everybody needs to get your service advisors out to Ogden. This is life-changing training for your service advisors. So definitely be out there for that. Coming up here in February is the summit put on by the Institute with 3-4 days where you can work on your business and not in your business. We're going to provide some awesome information, some awesome inspiration to help you take those next steps in your shop and in your business. So let's see. Leadership Intensive is one of the last things to talk about. Leadership Intensive is in November. Where is that in November? Is that in Ogden, Stuart? He's typing quickly. Dallas, Texas. Craig, we're planning on you being there. Leadership Intensive. This is talking about the human-centric side of why people think the way people think. Bob, I invite you to a Leadership Intensive. Have you been to one yet?
I have not, no.
Oh, well, there you go. Now you can come to Texas in November and enjoy that Thanksgiving short sleeve weather.
Cute. Maybe not today. Francis coming through, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Craig did go to the one in Denver a few months back, and everyone needs to go. Craig is saying everyone needs to go. So there you go. Bob, you've got a recommendation there as well.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Jimmy.
And to your success and your continued success, keep pushing forward and know that you're not going to fail.
That's
You
right.
guys are awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jimmy. Take care, guys.